Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Faster Mai, good evening, it's 5:30. This is Update for Monday 9th of October 2023 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes and a look at the latest news on the island. Background to the news with sport and business and Sea Watch and travel updates and the newsmakers in person. This evening, after 50 years, the Islandman's biggest name in supermarkets is going. What went wrong with the MV Manxman at the weekend? More assessments for that forthcoming onshore wind farm. Dhoon Glen footpath will reopen and boosting interest in Manx rallying.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
But first of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Faster Mai, Siobhan Fletcher.
Faster Mai. Shoprite has sold all of its 9 stores on the Isle of Man to Tesco. The company has confirmed they will remain trading as Shoprite during a transition period before they're rebranded to Tesco over the next 9 months. Shoprite store employees will be transferred to become colleagues of Tesco, but it's understood there are a number of staff at risk outside of the stores. The Isle of Man Steam Packet Company says it's hopeful Manxman will resume service imminently, pending testing at sea. The new vessel was pulled out of action yesterday following technical issues, with the Ben McCree drafted in to cover its service today. Manx Care will take over the management of Hillside Dental Practice in Douglas from December. It follows the private provider's decision to hand back its contract. Further afield, Israel has ordered a total blockade of Gaza, leaving the territory with no food, fuel or water. More than 800 people have reportedly been killed in Israel and around 560 in Gaza following clashes with Hamas. The UK Shadow Chancellor says Labour is ready to rebuild Britain and restore economic security. Speaking at the party's conference, Rachel Reeves says voters can choose 5 more years of Tory chaos or a government offering stability. And Amazon is giving all of its workers a pay rise of at least £1 an hour, although the GMB union says the increase does not resolve their dispute with the online retailer. They're your headlines, news at 6.
Man Benham. Contact us by phone, video call, email or face-to-face. We're happy to connect with you. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Thank you, Siobhan. From the Ronaldsway Met Office, there is a strong wind warning in operation. State of sea is slight, becoming moderate tonight. Partial cloud, and mist on the mountain and a light breeze. After dark, still some light breezes, down to 15 through the night. There is fog on the mountain road tonight. For Jamert, Tuesday will be dry with sunny intervals of fresh to strong south-southwesterly up to 17 degrees. Evening rain on a fresh breeze. The overnight minimum is 11. For Jacrane, any rain should clear around dawn, then dry and bright. Daylight maximum 16. Sunsets tonight 24 minutes before 7. High tide 11 minutes past 9. Low water 3 minutes after 4 a.m. Sunrise 24 minutes before 8 tomorrow morning. And the morning high tide at 10 o'clock.
Visit the Manx Glass and Glazing website and see a range of products from windows to doors, mirrors to splashbacks. manxglass.com.
Shoprite is selling all its Manx stores to Tesco. The news came this afternoon. What's it going to mean for jobs on the Isle of Man? And how will shoppers at Shoprite take to this? Here's John Moss.
There were rumours at the end of last week, but the announcement today that Shoprite is selling all 9 stores, 2 in Ramsey, 2 in Douglas with a wine right as well, 1 in Castletown and Port Erin and 2 in Peel, was a surprise.
A surprise?
All 9 stores. Did you know?
No idea.
First you've heard.
Yeah, I've heard about that, yeah.
It's going to change your shopping habits? Are you still going to come here, despite the fact it's got Tesco above the door?
Probably, because it's the closest to where I live.
We do actually shop Tesco.
So it won't really affect you?
No, not really, but it's sad for the island.
Oh, wow. It's a shame because it reduces the choice on the island that we're going to have.
You're joking.
I'm not, no.
They've sold them.
They've sold all 9 stores to Tesco.
Shoprite?
Shoprite have.
No, I had no idea.
All 9 stores.
I had no idea.
It means that at one fell swoop, Tesco has expanded from a single megastore here to 10 stores right across the island. Jobs? A government statement quotes Chief Minister Alfred Cannon as saying there are a number of staff at risk outside the store, but adds that Tesco has committed to retain the majority of staff in the immediate term and invest heavily in the existing store network over the next 12 months. The government adds that if any business is worried about the impact of this announcement on their operations, to contact their business Isle of Man. Shoprite was founded in 1972 by the Nicholson family. In the 80s and 90s, they expanded into Scotland, but falling profits hit their share price and they were forced to retreat back to the island. The name has been a familiar one for decades on this island.
Super 6 at Shoprite.
But presumably no longer.
The steam packet vessel Manxman was taken off passenger duties for the Heysham crossings today after suffering technical issues over the weekend. The story from Beth Espy.
The Manxman began sailing at a pace of 5 knots on her journey to Lancashire yesterday due to what was described as an issue with the propulsion system. The company says on safety grounds the master brought her back to Douglas, where she was assisted into the harbour by a tugboat. And it was all eyes on the sailing schedule this morning, wondering whether passengers would be loaded onto the Manxman as planned to go to Heysham or the Ben. And despite the schedule, passengers were notified by text it would be the smaller vessel they'd be travelling on. People on the Ben this morning said it was really full without an empty seat to be seen. The Manxman arrived in Manx waters in July after a lengthy voyage from South Korea, where she was built. She's due to take over the Ben McCree's full schedule later this month. If social media is anything to go by, what today has raised is a lot of sympathy for the Ben McCree at a time when the Department of Infrastructure says it's reviewing a request from the steam packet to replace her with the Arrow as the fleet's backup vessel. In the latest director's report, the company says it's hoping the DOI will agree to amend the Sea Services Agreement for such a move to take place. Currently, the SSA requires a steam packet to keep the Ben McCree, which has been the company's flagship vessel for the past 25 years, as backup until that agreement expires in 2045. Today, one comment on social media says the argument from the steam packet company to get rid of the Ben seems to be evaporating in front of their eyes. So, when will the Manxman be back in service? The company says, pending testing at sea, it's hoped it will be back in action imminently.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
MHKs have called for a Tynwald debate on relaxing work permits to be paused. It comes as Shoprite's confirmed it's selling all 9 of its stores to Tesco. You'll hear Douglas South MHK Claire Christian and First Onken MHK Rob Callister.
I've written to the Chief Minister already this afternoon and I've asked him to withdraw the motion of removing work permits. More than ever, we need to make sure we're protecting Manx jobs. But I also would encourage the DEFRA Minister to seriously look at how we can protect Manx producers. As island residents, we do need to support local businesses and, where we can, buy local produce. There are genuine concerns to be have around Tesco storing Manx produce in the future. And as I say, I would encourage the store to seriously look at its own policies, because now more than ever, we need to get behind our Manx producers and to be able to have that choice when we go shopping on the Isle of Man.
What we absolutely have to be really conscious is 2 areas, which is the first area is the work permit, which government are looking to relax temporarily the work permits. And this would concern me because while Tesco is obviously taking over, we're going to need to best protect these employees as much as possible and give them the best opportunity for Tesco to invest in upskilling them and Tesco not bringing in external employees for the more senior positions. Tesco will have very different management systems to Shoprite, I would have thought, so they'll be creating probably new roles, and I would hope that government would realise that this should be open to Manx workers first. And then the second area is obviously the local food producers, and local suppliers may now need to establish with Tesco if they need to get accreditation, which could, if they do this, they could be quite costly, as this may include new equipment, resource, maybe different systems of work. So DEFRA and DFE really need to step in and support the local suppliers.
Efforts have been made in recent months to boost the number of people getting involved in the Manx rallying scene. But how are things going? His former committee member for Manx Autosport, Dave Clucas.
Manx Autosport do a fantastic job with putting on two of the big events on the Isle of Man, and May was quite successful. And it proved that there's a lot of interest from across about coming over and doing large events, large rallying events on the island, and it can still attract a good competitor number. And our grassroots has also progressed. The more people that do it, the more people are getting interested in rallying, and the more volunteers will come for that. And I think that is where we're going to progress from. And it's fantastic to see. It's great and it's positive. And I think we've got a great base to build on there.
How much of a challenge has it been over the last few months to try and get volunteer numbers back up to good levels, and how difficult will it be to maintain that?
The Isle of Man has got something going for it, but it also can be detrimental, and that is it's sport mad. The Isle of Man has got so many different sports in different areas and different places, and like it's not even motorsport. And that all of those things and all of those the events that are put on for cycling and for enduros and trials and all the other stuff that goes on the Isle of Man in the background, like football, hockey, or everything. It all has a volunteer element, and the more sports that come around, the more it drains on the volunteer resource pool. So yeah, obviously, I think there are issues with volunteers, the number of volunteers and the volunteers that we can try and keep. But I think we've got a good place to build from, to be honest, within rallying. I think it's within that grassroots, because that brings people in.
What's going to be needed going forward to continue growing that grassroots base?
It's going to take a lot of time and effort, but I think it's time is going to be the thing. It's not going to happen overnight. And I think if you look at what issues we could face in 5 or 6 years' time, I think we've got to address those now.
Sea Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
Motor ship Ben McCree left Heysham at 24 minutes to 3. She'll be into Douglas in the next half hour or so. Onto the link span, departing this evening at 8:15, getting into Heysham just before midnight, and the overnight departure 2:15 back to Douglas at 6 tomorrow morning. Manannan left Douglas at 1:45. She's safely on the link span in the Mersey at the moment, leaving Liverpool this evening at 7:15 back to Douglas at about 10:30, 11:45. Tomorrow morning sailings as yet have not been updated by the Steam Packet.
Like the Steam Packet on Facebook for the latest sailing information.
Manx Utilities is set now to carry out assessments in 12 areas at its proposed site for a new onshore wind farm. Here's Transition Programme Manager Lizzie Riley.
So there are 12 different specialist areas. I've got a list of all of those on our website. The key ones that are taking place at the moment are the wind monitoring, and that records accurate measured wind speeds at the site. And that's really important for the design of the turbines. We knew what the average wind speeds were likely to be for that site, and it's got fantastic potential, which is really good in terms of the energy production from that site. But the importance in terms of the design is capturing the very, very high wind speeds that you do get. And to date, the highest wind speed we've recorded is 35 metres per second, which is significant. So it didn't last very long, but in terms of a design, you would want your wind turbine to be able to withstand those very, very high wind speeds. The next stage that's also happening is the noise monitoring, and that's to make sure that the noise levels felt by the residents at that site is well below what is normal human hearing levels. So making sure that nobody in the local area is adversely impacted. And that's a key thing. We have to work with those stakeholders, and we will be working with those stakeholders going forwards. The other things that are taking place are our bird and bat surveys. So they have to last 18 months, which is why we had to start very early into that process. And all of that information is going to help us develop what's called a scoping report. So we submit a report of what we know to be true at this point in time, and also what surveys are going to involve going forward, the methodology for those surveys. And that is open to all of the local experts to comment on and express their views, make sure that they're satisfied that we're going to be doing enough to capture what they need to see. And it's really important that we thoroughly review the impact on every aspect of that site and considering all issues. Because if we find an impact, it doesn't necessarily mean it stops the project going ahead, but it does mean we have to do additional steps to mitigate that impact. So that's really the importance going forwards.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 16 minutes before 6, Metro Bank announced a robust capital and debt restructuring package totalling £925 million today after reports around its capital position, although some current stakeholders will be taking a 40% haircut. It also confirmed it was looking at the sale of some of its residential mortgage portfolio. Metro Bank said the strategy included a £325 million capital raise and a £600 million debt refinancing package. At its launch in 2010, Metro Bank was the first new high street bank to launch in the UK in over 150 years. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookhall.com. Major airlines around the globe have cancelled flights to Israel and warned of travel disruption as the security situation deteriorates. Virgin Atlantic warned of cancellations and delays to Tel Aviv, and BA's altered its schedule. US airlines Delta, American and United, plus Air France, Lufthansa and Emirates have suspended services. Palestinian militants Hamas said they'd targeted Israel's Ben Gurion airport with missiles today. About 700 people have been killed in Israel since the attack on Saturday, and a further 500 having died in Gaza in retaliatory airstrikes. The UK Foreign Office is advising against all but essential travel to Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories, and against all travel to certain parts of the region. Virgin Atlantic's made 8 cancellations between Tel Aviv and London Heathrow from Saturday until this Wednesday.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookhall.
UK and European markets dipped as investors assess the impact of geopolitical turmoil in the Middle East. The safe haven dollar rose against the euro and sterling. Oil jumped following that surprise attack on Israel by the Palestinian militants, and gold prices scaled a one-week high. The numbers now from Ramsey Crookhall. At the close in London, the FTSE 100 down 0.03%, 7,492. The DAX in Frankfurt down almost 0.7% at 15,128. The Dow Jones Industrial down 0.04% at 33,395. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index down 0.5% at 13,357. The S&P 500 in the Midwest is down just over 0.1% at 4,301. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling trading at $1 22 cents, €1 15.7 cents, and 23 South African rand 67 cents. In commodities, gold's up just over 1% at $1,852 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude up almost 4 3/10% at $87.99.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookhall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future. For a house, or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookhall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookhall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
This is the most listened to Isle of Man news source, and Manx Radio's Update is the Isle of Man's most downloaded news podcast.
The first in a series of meetings for business managers and owners on the Isle of Man is taking place in Port St Mary tonight, organised by Business Isle of Man, which sits in the Department for Enterprise. The aim is to feed into the local economy strategy due to be published by the end of the year. Business Development Manager Matthew Gardner.
I think its main aim is to kind of increase the vibrancy and the offering of what's available on the Isle of Man. We see the retail sector is changing on the UK and lots of vacant units and kind of a changing consumer habits away from the high streets. I think the Isle of Man's in quite a unique position where we don't have those big out-of-town retail units, but we do need to keep on developing our high street and developing the offering that's within it. It's quite kind of early days at the minute. We've got lots of data. We're kind of going through it and analysing it, but I hope to see kind of a really good, clear vision of what the high street should look like and the areas around it as well. One thing to look at is kind of what supports we need to help to get new businesses up and running, but also to support businesses that are already there. Kind of at the minute, we've just recently launched our domestic event fund, so that's something that really drives footfall into these town centres that can hopefully support businesses who may be struggling and just to get more people in and get more people spending. But I think it's an important one to support those businesses that are well established, and we want to support them to grow and innovate and maybe adapt if they have to, if their current setup is not working for them.
Manx Radio Sport.
That's to my Rhiann Evans.
That's to my very good evening to you. Well, the Isle of Man under-21s netball team have returned home with bronze off the back of a very hard-fought tournament. The Manx side were competing in Sheffield last week in the Europe Netball Under-21s Challenge. They had a strong start to their campaign against Switzerland, taking the win in their opening match 57-28, with commentators' player of the match going to Manx goal attack Rebecca Cook. Next up, the Isle of Man faced tough opposition in eventual competition winners Gibraltar. Despite grit, determination and incredible defensive pressure all down the court from start to finish, Gibraltar came out on top 41-28. And finishing up their campaign, the Manx side faced long-standing rivals the Republic of Ireland. The Isle of Man showed no lingering feelings of the previous day's loss, diving into the game fighting. They kept the Irish on their toes for the first half of the match with some lovely play all down the court. However, in the end, it was the Republic of Ireland's day, despite valiant efforts from the Manx side. The final score was Ireland 54, Isle of Man 42. Elsewhere, and Mark Cavendish didn't contest the sprint in Sunday's first stage of the Tour of Turkey. It was his first event since his Tour de France ending crash, followed by the announcement that his retirement had been postponed. Finishing in 66th place, he was seen to be using the stage to get some racing miles into his legs. Astana have extended the Manx Missiles contract to include next year's Tour de France, giving Cav the chance to break Eddie Merckx's record number of stage wins.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronald's Way, the 2:05 Loganair from Edinburgh was cancelled. The 20-4 Loganair inbound from London Heathrow is delayed till 9 o'clock tonight. The 4 o'clock Aer Lingus inbound from Dublin delayed till 5:20. The 4:30 EasyJet from Bristol delayed till 5:25. And the 5 o'clock EasyJet from Liverpool came in 15 minutes late. The 10-6 Loganair inbound from Manchester is delayed till 6:20. The 10-7 Loganair from London City is cancelled. 8:20 Loganair from Liverpool scheduled on time, and the 9 EasyJet inbound from London Gatwick is showing on time. Outbound, the 4:30 Loganair to London City is cancelled. The 5 o'clock EasyJet to Bristol delayed until about now. The next departure is the 6:25 Loganair to Liverpool, which is on time. The 9:05 EasyJet to Gatwick showing on time. On the roads, temporary lights at the junction of Queen's Road and Park Road in Port St Mary for gas main work. Little Mill Road and Ballacottia Road in Onken closed for ditching work. You got temporary lights on Cool Road near the Isle of Man Business Park in Braddon for drainage work. The lights, temporary lights on Farrants Way in Castletown for pavement work, and station roads closed between Brightson Street and Strand Road, Port Erin, for repairs to the crossing area. There are some parking restrictions on Brighton Street for a temporary bus stop. Temporary lights on Glen Crutchery Road at that roundabout with Victoria Road for resurfacing. Hillside Avenue is closed through to Circular Road for adjacent office window replacement. And of course, Newcastle Town Road is closed between Spring Valley Roundabout and the bottom of Richmond Hill for resurfacing.
HNHmotorcycles.im for all your motorcycle requirements. Southgate Industrial Estate, opposite Quayside Tyres. Call 665646.
The decision to reopen the lower footpath at Dhoon Glen has been welcomed by Garth Commissioners. The Department of Environment's plan to close it permanently due to rotting trees, but it will be back in use by spring next year. Marinda Farger says it's good news.
We just need to thank the officers really for doing that, for reconsidering and finding the resources and the budget to work on it. They're going to improve other things at the same time. They're going to improve access and drainage and footpath surface, and I think it's the drainage really that they need to do, because it's all on the hill, of course, and there's been water running down and into the glen, and then that, of course, would be making the trees unstable and the banks and things. So if they can get that sorted out at the top, then hopefully it'll make the paths for the future. Commissioners are absolutely delighted, and it'll all be done this winter. It's been closed, you see, all summer months. They put that fence up, no one's been able to access the bottom path all summer. So if they can work on it, then it'll be open for next year. It's just excellent. I mean, you can't imagine having an important glen like that closed off to the public forever. It didn't seem right. And in a way, it would have created a precedent as well, because we have lots of glens. We have national glens, 17 or 18 national glens, and trees fall down, and it doesn't make sense to just going to abandon that section. As I say, we are pleased that they're going to do the work, and they found a budget to do it, committed resources to work on it, he said, and reopen at the earliest opportunity. So it's very good news.
Update Brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300.
Faster My, it's 6 minutes before 6, and the former chair of the Housing Committee says public sector rents could be raised if the benefit system was updated to offer more support to those in need. Chris Thomas, MHK, is calling for a general debate on housing when Tynwald sits next week and says it's a topic his successor needs to consider.
David's got some really difficult questions to answer as soon as possible about the future of public sector housing, and David and I worked together in House of Keys, Tynwald, on this. So, for instance, more than half the people in public housing are now on fixed-term tenancies. At some point, we've got to make a decision about whether all people move to fixed-term tenancies, and the local authorities all told me that it had to be the housing chair or the Minister for Infrastructure or Housing who had to make that announcement, and then we need to draw up a transition time. Once we've made that announcement, we then need to make sure we get inside everybody's head so that they understand what their future looks like, and we have to make decisions about how rents will be determined, because the Housing Association debate has already been mixed up with the fact that in Jersey and across, rents are much higher than they are here for public housing. Settled Tynwald policy is, in the means testing principles, is that we can afford to have higher rents only when we have a benefit system that actually targets people who need it more. And so, if David's bold enough, he can announce that rents will be going up by a lot, but then if you are genuinely struggling, you will get means tested payments from Treasury. That's what the means testing principles say. We've also got to move to new forms, and that's what mid-rent is all about. We've got to allow people who are in public housing to actually be building up a deposit so that they can move into private owned houses if that's what they want. And so we need to rethink systems along those lines, and I hope there's lots of work there.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Siobhan Fletcher, producer Amy Griffiths. After the news at 6, Phil Gornsey with Agenda, Greatest Hits with Chris Kinley at 6:30, Ian Kocher and The Brass Show at 9, and Dave Moore with The Late Show at 10 o'clock.
WINT